I do apologize. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's begin by considering the minutes for the July 20th meeting.
Does it feel like a yo-yo for the record?
I'll wait till Brian gets up here before I move to approve the minutes for the July 20th meeting.
I'll say.
I so move.
I'll second the motion to accept the minutes.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Land Bank procedure review.
Yeah, this is just going to be a general kind of overview of what we're going to do here. We have two applicants for 118 South Kansas Avenue. I'll give you a chance to go, if you haven't already, go over their applications, and then we'll, after we go over a couple things here, we'll then jump to that. We'll let each applicant come up there here and defend or just represent their application. I've given you kind of a cheat sheet of questions up there that you should be asking yourself. Does the intended use fit the zoning? It is zoned for commercial, so it is a commercial zoning. You're going to ask yourself, is this the highest and best use? Will the intended use expand the tax base? Will intended use improve the neighborhood aesthetics of the property? Does the purchaser understand that improvements may be required for intended use, parking lot, etc., and they'll need to pull the necessary permits, what the timeline for any improvements would be, and if intended use to build an improvement on the property needs to be platted first, but we can kind of take care of that later. And then just keep in mind our model land bank, buildable lots that can have a primary structure will not be sold for the extension of an adjacent yard. So kind of keeping that in mind as you go through this to make your decision. I'll let Chris kind of go over the, if we get to that point, we'll get to what the process will look like moving forward. You know, we'll have to do a notice 30 days prior with the property name and purchase amount, and that it would be 75% of the county appraisal. So we're a little bit off, but this is definitely the direction, and if you do select one of these applicants. So if you have any questions now to clear it up, now would be the time, and then we can hear the applicants.
Any questions?
I would say go to the next item and then call an applicant.
All right. The next item on 118 South Kansas Avenue, and looks like the first one I have here is Elsa. All right. Sure. Come up to the podium, please.
Hi, everyone. So I know it's not what we're planning on. It's not for commercial use. My mom has been wanting it as a yard because right now she doesn't really have much of a yard. The driveway that we have, we share it. It's part of 2nd Street, so we share it technically with the public and also with our neighbor. So my brother can't really go out and play. So we were hoping, you know, we could have the lot right next to it, make it into a yard, fence it all around. We've been calling the district attorney's office since we moved in, constantly asking when the city might put it into sale. So you guys know that we've been very invested. Also, my mom, she's not complaining at all, but there's been times where it hasn't been maintained, so she's been the one mowing it. She's called the city several times. You guys have voicemails where she's called to see if you guys could just come trim the trees or stuff like that, just because sometimes rodents live out there. But like I said, I know that you guys are making it more of a commercial, but if you add it to my mom's land, it would add more value in taxes. You guys obviously can appraise it for more of a value, which makes her have to pay more in taxes, which she's completely okay with. And I know that if you were to give it to somebody else, it would take away her privacy that she currently has. Her bedroom window is right next to the yard, which a lot of people tend to park there, and it causes her to feel uncomfortable sometimes when she's changing or doing stuff. So that's another thing. She really wants just a sense of privacy around her yard. But I just wanted to say thank you for listening to my mom's petition, and we are okay with whatever decision you guys make. Just wanted to say our piece, but thank you. And sorry my voice is shaking. I get really nervous talking in front of people.
No, that's all right. You did great.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next applicant. Carlos Angel.
Good morning. My name is Miguel. The reason for our interest in the property is to be able to expand our current restaurant at 114 South Kansas Avenue. As of now, we like the idea of utilizing it for parking, but in the future we have some concepts of a standalone building which we could use for our own catered events, a sort of conference room that could be rented out to a customer for us to cater that, provide a meal for, and the ease of it being right next to the building. We've for the moment we've gotten a couple of notes from our current customers that our limited parking hasn't allowed them to stop by sometimes during busy times. So we'd like to take care of that issue and allow some parking. We think any sort of parking development, just for starting, would be a good idea, or would help with the appraisal also. We know we'd have to look into permits for that, and we'd be going to those measures, the sort of legal requirements and what to ask for permits. Yeah, exactly. Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos, you gonna say a few words?
He's my coworker. So, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm the owner of the Pistachio House, the greenhouse, 114 South Kansas. And the reason why we have two applications is him is as my coworker, you know, like co-owners. He wanted to apply, and I wanted to apply as I'm the owner. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of story of that. You know, like we saw that little house as a rental opportunity, okay? So I live on 633 Southeast 3rd. So we were walking one day, and we saw the owner, and we saw it as a rental opportunity. And as we talked to him, he says, well, I'm going to fix it to get it sell. We talked to the city, and the city says, well, that's no living facility area. And so I said, okay, well, that's a greater idea again, because I already had the stove, I already had the hood, I already had the refrigerators, and I want to kind of build something on a Kansas Avenue, you know? As you can see, it's not a big lot, but, you know, I say, something for retirement where my wife don't have to work for somebody else, and I don't have to work for somebody else. Just a taco shop. Somebody passed by there, give me a taco, and that's it. And so I saw it as it's a C2, it's a commercial area. I said, well, let's go ahead and do it, you know? Let's go ahead and go full blast. And that's when I started building on, during COVID, on the 2021, and to build it to, I never thought about having employees. Now I got 7 employees working for me. It's been turning around pretty good, so that's why I apply. Angel says, well, we can just do it with one application. I say, I want to apply for myself to get the lot, just because of parking facility. Just as you can see, if you guys pass by there, we got really nice neighbors. So as soon as they saw that we have 650 viewings and likes, they decide to put buckets all around their parkings, which is understandable, it's their lot, so they want to provide. But we've been dealing with that business, a lot of people has been saying, you know, like they pass by there and they say, well, we heard good things about this restaurant, so we want to stop, but we don't know where it is. So it kind of brings, this little restaurant brings a life to Kansas Avenue. As you can see, you know, some of the parts of the city are dying. I remember when we used to have a Dock 44, we used to have Kmart, we used to have 4 for Less. So that kind of side of, you know, we got another property, try to invest over there, but I say, well, how are we going to invest in another place? Newton is the town, either you hit or you run. And so we're going on a goodwill. You guys can see pictures from the, you know, like I see like the landscaping right there, but you guys can see pictures from 3 years ago, how the house was looking and how it's been turning around. We poured concrete, we've been investing on a different building, and so now what we want to invest is on a parking lot, in a future thinking a convention, little convention, 50 to 60 people room and a little bit of parking again. So it's your decision. Again, you guys know it is, you guys want to turn around and do that side of town. I mean, you know, basically the east side of town as a commercial area. So there's only 2 houses over there waiting for it. So thank you very much.
I will notice that there was comment of 2 separate applications, but
Yeah, they submitted 2 applications. I just put one, they were identical, just different names, and I'd sent both applicants or both applications a certified letter. So, I mean, we checked all the boxes, but yeah, I just printed out the one because it was verbatim the same thing, just different name. One was Miguel and one was Carlos, correct?
understood. All right.
Floor is yours to discuss.
My first question will be, and looking down the road at this empty lot, with the projected size of the catering business, can a building to handle 50 to 75 people fit on this lot, plus the required parking space required by code?
I mean, it looks buildable. I mean, we're looking at the dimensions there. We've got 75 feet by 66 feet. I don't know without a site plan. I don't know.
Because if you're talking 50 to 75 people, you're looking at 35 to 50 cars.
I mean, in theory, they could merge the lots and make the lot line disappear, and that might.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of like the point where we want to kind of like add it on to the building. So that kind of like makes more space
Okay.
to since I'm the owner of the property of 114 South Kansas, that was the main deal, like kind of merged together, you know, kind of like now since I'm the owner of the building, plus adding up, is not going to add to the site 1118. It's going to be adding up to the 1114 towards the 1118. That kind of proves. Now I got 25 by 25 feet of my property. So adding out the property land side will be kind of adding up on.
I understand that, thank you.
Did you have a timeline in mind on how soon you might be putting up a building?
No timeline on the building, but right now it's more like for the parking lot, and we'll see how is that going to be working. So it's working on cutting a couple trees, which that's going to be costing like $4,000, and make that land, you know, put some gravel or limestone, something like that, so people can start parking. So we're talking about it's another $6,000 to $8,000 just to put on the property, plus whatever it costs. So that's $12,000 right there, just average out. And so we'll see how much space we'll have, because get the build, if we get that site, then it used to be a fence, like right between where the complex were and where the place is. So the restaurant, and so it will be like taking down the fence. Basically, now you can see, once you cut the trees, once you cut the fence, then you see how much land you got and what's the future.
First step is going to be cleaning the land to be taking care of the trees and leveling before we can kind of put a date as far as on that. But the first project would be the parking lot. And with the parking lot, we keep in mind in the future that building. So we have to make sure that we read up on those codes and make sure that way we're not setting anything in the ground. It's going to be dug up later anyway.
And with any applicant that you were to choose, they have to enter into a development agreement, and you can put a year, 2 years, that's up to you to establish the timeline. And they have to agree to that before we have a PSA. Chris,
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Zach on that. Not specifically for this property, but really for any property, the role of the land bank, you would want to have some time parameters built in. That's the whole idea with the land bank, is turning it over to someone that can improve the property in a timely manner. So for today's action, should you choose to go forward with one of these applications, I would see it more as conceptually, there may be some questions. We can work on drafting a development agreement or PSA that would have the fine terms of the agreement, bring that back for formal action, and in the interim, you would publish a notice to sell the property, should you want to go forward. But it sounds like there may be some questions, and you may have to set this over on this regard.
Zach, I have a question. What is the 75% of the appraised price
I got
today?
that up on the calculator right here. Sorry. It is $3,465.
And Zach, are there any codes that, with this being a commercial backing up against residential and her concerns about a fence or the visibility, is there anything we can add in there that would be a requirement for that?
If there's not a city code on a buffer requirement between commercial and residential, it is something that you could build into the agreement regardless to go above and beyond. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't either, but we can do some due diligence on that.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
I just would like to state that, agreeing with Casey here, that we will be adding some deadlines and dates for certain things to be done. Obviously, you've pointed out that their work, that land needed work, mowing, trimming trees and all that good stuff. And what we don't want is, whichever direction we go, the person that ends up with that property to leave it the same way or just to do the minimal amount of work. We do want to make sure that we improve that side of town, as you've pointed out, and we would like to hold them accountable to get certain things done to make sure that we continue the beautification of that area. So just making sure that you guys are aware of that.
And can I ask a direct question? Are you guys willing to commit to a timeline for the building, or what would you say your next 5 years looks like?
Right there. Yeah, the building will be built the building will be built in less than 5 years.
Thank you.
It all depends, like now after, as you guys can see, after COVID, everybody's busy. When I was building the restaurant business, it took me 6 months to get a door for a contractor license, just to put a front door in my building. 6 months for a 3-hour job.
Yep.
And so I don't know how, like I talked to plumbers, they had to come from Wichita in order for them to do the plumbing. And, it was like a 3 months, 4 months. So it all depends how busy they get and how, everybody moves by amount of dollars. So
Right.
they got a Freddy's or they got a little place that they have to put gas or they have to put a building. They prefer to have a bigger building than have a little space.
Yep.
So it's,
let's say you establish, we're just using general term numbers here, but let's say you establish a 2-year timeline on things, and they can always come and request more time and say, hey, we're waiting on X, Y, Z. Would you extend it? If there's a good reason to extend it, then you would. If there's not, then you could fall back. I'm sure we'll have reversionary language of some sort.
Yeah, the deed would include a reverter or reversionary interest where this land bank could then go forward and take the property back if those conditions are not met.
Good.
Sounds good.
So is there room to put a parking lot in where people don't have to pull in and then back out? Will they be able to circle? Have you kind of drawn that out yet to see?
There is no way that you can circle since the railroad is on the other side. So you only got, if I do a circle thing, you'll be cutting up at least 20 feet from each side.
Yeah.
So the back side is the railroad, like as you guys can see. So basically I want to be losing 40 feet out of the property. So, you know, it's more like I want to be like more like at the variance of the property line.
More of a pull in further into the
Yeah.
lot than instead of right there, right out of it. So they have a little bit more vision, or I'd imagine giving a little bit more visibility as far as pulling out.
Now building a privacy fence, I won't see a problem with it, you know, like it can be 6 to 8 feet. I don't know what the city requirement would be, but I mean,
And allowing the parking lot in the actual space provided would be, I think, would allow for the drivers to respect the sidewalk a little bit better. Like I said, complement the visibility.
Any additional questions?
And what's the goal of today's meeting? Deciding who we want to.
Yeah, if there's any action to be taken, you can make a motion to either approve, not approve the applications. You can approve one or not approve both of them. So you don't have to take any action, but it's in your court.
And just, I agree. Any approval would be contingent on the successful negotiation of a PSA, bringing that back to you. But if there's fundamental questions that are still unanswered about the footprint, the setbacks, and what can be done, you can of course table it and ask the applicants to come back with information if you don't feel fully prepared on that. However, I wouldn't see it as a binding sale for you to make a decision to award it to A, contingent on a PSA being negotiated that includes these terms. So it's, you have full deference on what you want to do today.
Well, with what Chip said about the codes and the number of parking spaces, just looking at the aerial, I can't really see where you're going to be able to fit a building plus parking. So I think trying to come up with an agreement that says you got to build a building in 5 years, I think we're just going to end up back here discussing the fact that you can't put a building in there and meet code, and then we're looking at variances. So, I know personally, I think it would expand their business and help the community, especially that part, if they had additional parking and plus the safety. If you've ever backed out onto Kansas out of there, it's quite entertaining. So I would, if it was me, obviously we can't award it to somebody that's not commercial, but so if we were to select Miguel, I'd be comfortable with it being more of either a site plan to prove that the building could go on and meet code,
That's kind of.
or we just agree now that, we'll sell it to them and they'll make it parking and, kind of leave it up to them to add the building. But that would be my feelings on it.
I think I agree with that, but so a direct question, would you still be interested in the property if we decided that it was going to be used as parking only? Or would you change your mind and no longer be interested in?
I guess I'm saying not to put the covenant on them that would say they have to build the building.
Right.
You know, being a business owner, if he starts it with parking and he expands as well as he believes he can and decides to put a building up and the powers to be say, yep, you can legally do that, then I think we leave it on him to make his own decisions and wish him the best. But I would seriously put the covenant for the 8-foot privacy fence between, just to be clear, between that property and residential, because I feel like just to be a good neighbor, that would be good.
I would be for, if it's your goal to have a building on it, if you would come back to us with some type of a plan from a professional that shows that the building would fit there and still meet parking guidelines, then that's fine. I think I would be for moving forward with the restaurant, but subject to a PSA where we find out exactly what will fit into that and meet code. And I really wouldn't be for putting a restriction on having him have to build a building in 5 years, because it could get real sticky if we had to take it back. But I would like to have more information before we go into a purchase sales agreement. We've been saying PSA. That's what PSA means. That's my opinion.
Just got a question. Can the two properties merge?
I think so.
You should be able to.
Yeah.
With unified ownership, I know there's some provision on that. I can't say specific to this, but our codes do contemplate a scenario where it can be merged. We'd have to look at it.
Because as a commercial, the research that I have is like you can build on zero line. You don't have to have your feet 5 feet away from the variance. So that's another thing. That's why right now we need it as a parking lot. Okay.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about 2 years from now, that's when we can build a little bit more money and merge basically up to the property line of 114 South Kansas, and the other side is still parking, as you can see, like, because we already got the building. Basically, we just need to build a building to get the footings, basically. When I came and talked to the city about a building, they say as long as, less than 200 square feet, you don't need footings. That's why we put a portable shed. But, if it's more than, which I got 25 by 35, that's more than 200 and some feet. So the only thing I need right now is which is a storage space. But that can always move away and merge 114 South Kansas to the property line, which will be 25 by 35 building, or a little bit more. It all depends what the structure people will say. And I still have the whole lot empty, and that kind of gives it the number I was kind of giving you from 50 to 60 people. Right now at the patio I can see 35 people. It's just a patio. We're not talking about like moving the portable shed plus,
And right now, as the lot sits, the 118 South Kansas is not platted. They do not have to plat to install a parking lot. However, if they were to do a building, they would have to plat this, and that's kind of where they could roll the lot merger in with that process and make that line go away, and then the side yard setbacks are different for them anyways.
Well, I'll go back to my original question, and I think maybe they need to go visit a little bit with zoning and planning.
Exactly.
And okay, if we do merge the lots, how big a building can you have? Because you're not talking just 50 people, but you got to have restroom space. You got to have parking for so many people that can be in there. And does it work in the model you're thinking you want to do? It may not. You may decide we need to go elsewhere, completely out of the corner. And, but trying to park that many cars, your neighbors aren't going to be happy. Because you're gonna overspill onto the streets and other businesses. So I think that needs to be researched a little. I like your ideas and thoughts, but I don't know if you got the square foot legally to do it. Plus you gotta, your neighbor's this railroad, and sometimes they're not friendly. I'll just leave it at that.
Sometimes.
I'm trying to be polite.
Well, for now, how about if we offer a parking lot? I mean, I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it, but you know, my business brings from $40,000 to $60,000 a month. And that's taxi. So if I go to different location, and I'm gonna be honest, most of the people that comes to my location, they got DUIs and they still like to go party. So they come at 10 in the morning from the liquor store open and they buy 30, 40 bucks on tacos and burritos and food because they cannot go to McDonald's or, you know, all the way over there where the food courts are. So, I mean, it's your decision, whatever you guys feel like it. You know, you guys can have a parking lot or future things, you know. I think it's a good location. Kansas Avenue, I always see it as a city guy, comes, get the burrito, and go drive to the water department place.
I think the concern is more you taking it on and then finding out you can't do it at all.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you run that risk pretty heavy, and there's a lot of expense to platting. I platted one not just down from that location a few years back, and it was a considerable expense just to have that done. So,
So how about it, we just leave it like it's a parking lot for the business?
I could make a motion. Because I think you need to be visiting with staff, just to see what everybody wants to end up with. But I would make the motion that we move forward with Miguel's application, and that we direct staff to work with them to see what could end up on that lot.
So you want to see some sort of site plan that would fit
Yeah.
within
I
the
don't
current.
want them to have to spend a lot of money.
Okay.
I mean, get with the zoning. Let's it's like we're trying to make a decision. We're not sure what we're deciding on. And, but my preference would be, to put it into commercial property, as opposed to residential property, totally understanding why, these people, the Perez's, you know, are interested in the lot, but the only decision I'm willing to make today is who we want to work with, and let's work towards a purchase sales agreement, but I'd like to know more, you know, like Chip said, you know, what can they do there? I would hate to sell it to them and find out that it can't even comply as a parking lot. And then that may be a different set of decisions that you guys would want to make if it can't comply as that. But let's find out what the data says, what the zoning people say, but have the full intent of working with you guys so that you end up with that either as a parking lot, or hopefully you can add on to it, because if that's your dream, you know, then that's pretty cool.
Question is, this is area zoned, pre-zoned already for commercial. Is that whole area on that side of, east side of Kansas Avenue down to the smoke shop where the laundromat is and all that, is that, there's at least one more house in there? Is that all commercial clear through there?
I don't know. Hold on, let's see if I can find
I'm gonna guess it is, but let's make sure.
Pull up the zoning. If I can't find it real quick, I mean, keep discussing while I'm looking here, hold on.
And my concern for the development is, okay, we just do the parking lot. My concern is in 2 to 3 years, we now got some money put back, let's do the add-on or the building. And when you do contact the city, they'll say, no, because you don't have the quota space. I'd rather you know that now
That's
than
what
3
my
years
motion
from now.
says.
And and that's the kind of the clarification we're trying to get here is to make sure you understand that we're trying to clarify this piece for your benefit, not to keep you from your dreams, but to make sure that you're
Exactly.
headed in the right direction to be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish.
Okay, so if you're looking up here at this map, the whole, from First Street all the way down to Fourth Street, and across the street here, that's all C2 to the railroad. All this whole piece of pie here. And then across the street here, these two lots right here, this one and this one are C2, and that's that little district right there.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't pull it up on, I'm not using my computer. I'm
Yeah, I
using this-
understand.
the house computer, and I don't know how to find what I got on mine.
Thank you for answering my question.
Yep.
I will concur with Mr. Cree that this be tabled for 30 days and give the commercial applicant time to verify the fact that he can do his plans on this lot. And if you need that as a motion, Mr. Chairman, you can accept it as a motion, if you would, please.
So it sounds like we have a motion and a second.
Second, yeah. You can write that motion down however you.
Yeah, I've already got a little word salad there. Yeah, we'll make it pretty.
All right.
You do need to know what you're buying.
Yep.
So with the motion and a second, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? All right. Motion carries.
Adjournment.
All right, we can adjourn. Thank you for coming out.